Amy Bradley vanished the morning of the 24th of March 1998 from a Royal Caribbean cruise ship called the Rhapsody of the Seas, and now nearly 3 decades later, we still don't know what's happened to her. The FBI are still offering rewards for information that could lead to identifying if someone took her, who took her, what happened to her. That reward is still open and the case is still open, and there's a lot of different theories. There's a lot of allegations of people who said they've seen her over the years, but one name seems to come up again and again, and that's Yellow. Not because there's proof that he took Amy, not because it's a solved case, it's not a solved case, but because amongst all of the uncertainty, all the theories, all the questions, his name seems to sit right at the center of all the timeline, the theories of what happened on that ship. So let's get into it.
Murder, cults, kidnapping.
Where the trail goes cold, we keep digging.
This is Dead Ends.
Yellow was the nickname of Alister Douglas. He was a bass player on the ship, so he would be on the ship for weeks or months at a time, and he would perform for the guests during the day, during the evening as the entertainment. And naturally, as part of that, the band members, would have interactions with the guests on the ship. They have downtime, they have to entertain themselves. You can't just be sat in your cabin for months at a time. So on the evening Amy Bradley disappeared, Amy and her brother were in the club on the ship. There was a nightclub you could go to, and Yellow is so compelling because all around, before and after her disappearance, he is seen with Amy, and in this nightclub he is seen interacting and dancing with Amy. And that is not conjecture, that's not a rumor. There's actual footage of Amy dancing with him on that night. They had a videographer on the ship who was doing sort of promo content, that sort of thing for the ship, and he has footage of the club that night which puts Amy Bradley and Alister Douglas, Yellow, together. But obviously that doesn't in itself mean he did it. There were lots of people in the club. They're social places, cruise ships. People dance, they flirt, they talk to crew and entertainers all the time, all through the ship. People are interacting. But what makes Yellow so compelling isn't just that he was seen speaking, dancing with Amy, it's the timing. So according to the case details, Amy returned to the family cabin early morning after being out with her brother. Her brother, Brad, returned to the cabin around 3:35 a.m. and Amy followed shortly after. At some point that night, Amy and Brad sit out on the balcony of the cabin, talking, smoking, and then Brad goes to bed. Later, Amy's father, Ron, wakes up around 5:30 and he sees Amy asleep, still on the balcony. She must just wanted the fresh air after that night, fallen asleep on the balcony, and her dad sees her there at 5:30. He then wakes up around half an hour later and Amy is gone. So we have that little window of half an hour between 5:30 and 6 that Amy disappears in. And that's where Yellow comes back. So one of the biggest reasons people suspect him is witness testimony that places Yellow with Amy that morning after seeing them that night. So seen in the club that night, seen on the balcony alone, and then half an hour later disappears. But 2 guests, Laurie and Crystal on the ship, report seeing Amy and Yellow riding a glass elevator up to the Blue Orchid Lounge, and that's the club they were in, just before 6 a.m. And then shortly after, they see Yellow walk away alone. And if that timeline is right, that changes everything, because that is the last time anyone will have seen her. The last confirmed time is her dad, Ron, in the cabin, but if these guest testimony is right, they were in fact the last people to see her with Yellow, the bass player. And so now the question in this case isn't just, did Amy fall from the balcony? Did she leave her room on her own? Now, the questions are, why was she back with Yellow? Did she leave the cabin voluntarily? Did she meet him by chance? Or was she lured away by Yellow somewhere on the ship or somewhere off the ship? Or were the witnesses just mistaken? And now these questions matter because this is one of those cases where timing is so important, because the timing is so short and any inconsistency can change the shape of the whole story. So we need to really know what happened in that window. And this has always been something that people have paused over, a detail that people have considered. And now, according to Amy's brother, Yellow approached him after Amy had disappeared and said something like, "Hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your sister." And Brad found that suspicious. The brother found that suspicious because up to that point, there'd been no public announcement about Amy being missing. So how did Yellow know? And that's what Brad wondered. How did you know that my sister is missing? And now, obviously, it's a cruise ship. Gossip can spread fast, especially among the staff. They're going to talk to each other. Crew are going to talk to each other. Passengers will talk and overhear things. So again, this on its own isn't proof that Yellow already knew or he was involved, but it's another fragment along with all these little pieces of a puzzle which add up to Yellow being very suspicious and very involved. And then there's another point that keeps Amy in the spotlight. So Amy's family believed he knew more than he said. And the FBI interviewed him. He took a polygraph, and it was later reported that the results of that polygraph were described as inconclusive. And so whilst there's no evidence found that could charge him formally with being involved or that he knew what had happened, and he did continue to maintain he was innocent, the polygraph was inconclusive. And so it's important because we don't really know what happened. Was he lying? What was he lying about? Again, that doesn't prove that he did it. Polygraphs are very sketchy pieces of evidence because they can't tell you actually what they're lying about. It could be a false result. He could just be hiding other things not related to this disappearance at all. There could be many explanations, but the questions still remain. What were the inconsistencies found in that polygraph? And was Yellow the last person to interact with Amy on that cruise ship? He's a person who's acting very odd. He's a recurring figure. He's definitely been seen with Amy the night before, speaking with her, dancing with her, and there's the rumour that he's been seen on the morning. So there's no proof to prove it, but we're building a picture which looks very likely that he is in some way involved in the disappearance of Amy Bradley. Now, in 2025, Amy's brother shared another detail that made the Yellow theory feel even darker. He said there was a third witness, a woman named Elizabeth, who later testified before a grand jury that she saw Amy and Yellow in the lounge, saw Yellow make Amy a brown drink, and then saw a young woman come out shouting, "Senorita, kidnapped." And so Brad has said that his family have since been trying to locate that witness to find out what does she know, what did she see. But that was a testimony she gave in court. And that does sound like a bit of a missing piece, because that could corroborate the story that Yellow was seen with Amy going up to that club and therefore was in fact the last person to be on that cruise ship with Amy Bradley. But again, we have to be careful because this is based on what Brad's saying, the brother. Obviously, there will be bias there, and it still doesn't publicly resolve what happened to her. It could just put her with Yellow in that narrow window before Amy Bradley disappeared. It's still part of this unsolved picture. And all these different pieces, I think that's why Yellow remains at the center of a lot of theories, why he remains such a central figure in the whole case. He is in timeline of events, always at these intersections of when she was last seen, where she last was, where she was last seen before she was never seen again. Now, if she fell overboard, Yellow doesn't matter. He would be irrelevant. If she left of her own free will, again, it's just unlucky that Yellow is being seen. But if she was targeted, manipulated, if she was taken, then Yellow becomes pretty hard to dismiss. You know, he's been the last person. He was there. He was seen with her. Witnesses keep bringing the story back to Yellow. And even after nearly 3 decades, there's no satisfying answer as to why does his name keep appearing? What does he know? What is he not telling us? What are those inconsistencies with the polygraph? How do we find those things out? And, you know, we have to be pretty precise here because Yellow has not been convicted. And we have to say that he has not been convicted. There's not enough evidence to publicly say that he is involved. But all these different pieces seem to show that he is in some way a part of this. And that's why people still talk about him. That's why the theory's never gone away. That's why when people look at the disappearance of Amy Bradley, Yellow is pretty much where they begin. You know, there's no confession. There's no body found. She's still missing. We have to rely on witness testimonies, on people's conjecture and stories of what happened, what they saw. Now, personally, if Yellow was involved, I think the likely possibility is that either he acted as a kind of middleman, identifying people to target who could then be trafficked, or that he's directed Amy somewhere offshore, perhaps to buy drugs or for some other reason, and something's gone wrong in that process offshore. Not related to him, he's just directed her. Because he would have had contacts on shore. He was from these regions. He would have known people. And so again, the crew, the locals are good places to, if you want to find out, where do I get this? So he remained on the ship. Either way, there has to have been someone else involved because Amy went missing. She was not on that ship, but Yellow remained on the ship. So either he has been a piece or has just unfortunately got mixed up in this. But he was on the ship. Someone has to have been involved on the shore. Could that be that he was involved in a trafficking scheme and she has been taken after being identified by him? Or did he just point Amy toward an unfortunate location on shore where she has been taken by people unrelated to him? Or perhaps related, she's maybe gone to buy drugs or something similar and been taken there. We don't know. But whether he was involved, whether witnesses got their timelines correct, or if there's some lies, if it's something else entirely, one fact is unchanged. Amy Bradley did disappear from that cruise ship in that window. And her family is still waiting for the answer. We don't know. So what do you think? Do you think Yellow was involved? Do you think he is the solution to this puzzle? Let me know what you think in the comments, or if you have more details on Yellow that we've missed in this video, we'd love to learn more. Let us know what you think. What do you know about this guy Yellow? And if you've got this far, hit the like, hit subscribe button. We've got a full episode on Amy Bradley. You can see that on our YouTube channel, on Spotify, wherever podcast places, for the full Amy Bradley deep dive. But for now, we'll see you at the next dead end. Goodbye.